Are working with metrics that we know will give us more insight into the community spread that we're having. And with our higher positivity rates that we're seeing around the state, we're not surprised that we are seeing cases in the school. We are working on a county by county, school by school basis and working with them to help limit the spread of these cases. And that really is the critical part of this, and the ability to have that knowledge immediately that there's a positive case in the school, which will probably, hopefully, come from parents, teachers, staff, and students themselves that know that they've received a positive result, so we can start working on that immediately. If we have to wait for the test to come through and then us to be able to contact trace that and identify this as an individual student from that school, there's going to be a delay in that. So I strongly encourage parents, while their students being tested, to have that student stay home until that test result is back, to quarantine the siblings of a child that you may have at home that's positive, and to make sure that you notify your school immediately if you do have a positive child in the school.
You want to also just underscore or repeat what you mentioned earlier about, and oftentimes I'm talking to employers and educators, superintendents around the state, and many of them are confident that the environment that they have put together is potentially maybe the safest place where an employee or where a student is all day long. But I think it's worth repeating what you mentioned about tracing, how important that is, in addition to the testing, but also where we're seeing some of these cases pop up at weddings and gatherings outside of school or outside of work, and then how that does then affect.
And I think that's the critical part. We've talked a lot about our increasing cases are really coming from those that are ages 0 to 19 and 19 to 29. Really, it's that 19 to 29 that's probably the highest group, but 14 to 18 is certainly contributing a significant component. As we trace this back, we find that it's usually a party, a birthday party, a graduation. It was a football team getting together with cheerleaders and the other kids from the high school to celebrate school opening back up. All of those things, weddings, that are contributing, unfortunately, to these cases. They're really not necessarily getting this at school. So again, it's more about what happens socially a lot of times with this age group than what's happening in the school system.
Yeah, Tom, I would just say before we move on, this is about not letting your guard down. And oftentimes we're seeing at the place of employment or at schools, there's a lot of school spirit, a lot of creativity that's gone into this that we're seeing all over the place. Some real cheers that are going on about how to mask, how to physically distance, how to resituate a classroom safely. And so the guard is up when you're in those environments, but it's when then you go off into your separate corners of the world that sometimes the guard comes down and you feel the most comfortable, like, well, I know my whole family reunion, the whole family gathering, but this is where it can occur as well, especially then when you get into those bigger gatherings. And just because you know someone doesn't mean you know every single place that they've all been as well.
And I think that points what's really important, Governor, and that is that if I would encourage parents to do anything, it would be to help your kids to identify and define their pod of friends, kind of their bubble of friends that they're going to hang out with and they're going to be with socially, and that limits it rather than having their closest 100 friends at a party that they went to. Maybe it's the 6 or 8 of them that are routinely together. So there's still socialization, which is so important to their development and to their mental health, but not necessarily with 100 or 200 of their closest friends.